Okay. Okay. All right. So that 6.
Oh, you're going forward. Here we go. You're going to do the whole 100.
You could full 100. The video's just Pete guessing the 100.
Yes, 6 is Kyer Elam.
Welcome to another episode of Boom or Bust, the draft show. And man, this is a massive episode. Max Chadwick, Tate, Sigworth, Nick Merriam, Big Board 2.0. We are halfway through the college football season. And let's just say our Big Board 1.0, kind of throw that out the window because there's a lot of new takes for this 2022 NFL draft. We did a top 50 in our 1.0. That's not enough, guys. We're doing a top 100 today. Top 100 Big Board. Before we start the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Of course, be sure to follow our Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Boom or Bust Draft. We're on YouTube, of course, anywhere you get your podcasts. And please check out the merch store. I'm rocking the Boom or Bust hoodie right now. Make sure you get that. Nick's got his in the closet, I believe. He's not repping right now, but it's okay.
Coward.
It's okay. We'll move on, onward and upward.
It's very hot here, actually.
It is. I bet you it is pretty hot in Syracuse, known as a very hot city. So we're going to start, guys, with this top 100 big board with guys that actually aren't in the top 100 big board. So, Tate, let's start with you. Who is the best player for you that didn't crack the top 100?
Isaiah Thomas, Oklahoma edge, one of like a million. Big, tall, has great length. He has great speed. He's quick off the edge. He also can play inside. Last year when Ronnie Perkins came back from his suspension, instead of just kicking Isaiah Thomas to the bench, they just moved him inside and had Nick Bonino, Ronnie Perkins, and Isaiah Thomas, which is a lethal combination. He may be benefiting from playing across from Nick Bonito, who we'll get to at some point, is like maybe one of the best edge rushers in the entire country in terms of win rate. But Isaiah Thomas has a lot of skills, a lot of intangibles. When you watch him on tape, he's big, he's strong, he's quick. He just pops off. So yeah, Isaiah Thomas is, I think, what is he? 70, 60? Hold on.
64 for you.
64 for me. Thanks, Max. He's 64 on my big board, not ranked by these other two because they're clowns.
All right, well, my guy just gets in the name Hall of Fame, so I'm going to talk about Storm Duck, cornerback from UNC, who has been injured this year and hasn't really played. He had one game, it was kind of meh, it was a fine game, but really for me the big thing is that he played so well for North Carolina these past years. He's an outside corner, doing a little bit of man, a little bit of zone, and as a freshman and sophomore, he played well as a young player. His best season was probably his freshman year. He was still good last year. And I think honestly, if he continued to play the way he was going, he'd be at least a shoe-in second-round pick. The injury thing is kind of puts him in the ether of all the players this year that we just don't know where they're going to end up, which just seems to be commonplace at this point. But for now, I've kept him kind of as a third-round guy. I have him 66th overall on my board. But again, waiting to see if he plays more to see what he is. That one game he played wasn't really encouraging, but also it was one game, and I'm not going to glean too much from it. The 2 years of tape we have of him shows that he can do a lot of things from the outside in terms of physicality, in terms of athletic traits, in terms of playing man, playing zone. And I think he probably won't be a first or second round pick if he doesn't play again this year. Will be a fun flyer for a team to take later in this draft if he does end up falling there.
So one guy that I actually have higher than both of you that didn't make it on is Justin Jacobs, the Iowa linebacker who has been amazing this year. The first thing that stands out with him is his length. He's 6'4". Now he's 236, maybe pack on a little bit of weight at the next level. But he has been an all-around stud for that Iowa defense, which is one of the best in the country. They're number 2 in the country right now after beating Penn State. But he's been amazing. He's really good in coverage, really good run defender. He's showed he's capable as a pass rusher too. He's a versatile linebacker for Iowa. Justin Jacobs right now my linebacker 3 in this draft. So didn't crack the top 100, but he was number 41 on my board. So let's get to this top 100, which I'll explain again how we do this. We each come up with our own top 100 and we average it out and come up with the official Boom or Bust top 100 big board. So here is the 100 to 51 of the Boom or Bust Big Board 2.0. You're going to see it flashing across your screen right now. Nick, who stands out in that 100 to 51 range that you want to talk about?
So we're going to go a little high here. We're going to go with number 59 player overall, quarterback at Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder, which I know that people have been talking about on Twitter a heck of a lot. And there's probably tweets on my account of me being like, wow, this guy's like pretty good. And also tweets of me being like, this guy sucks, because I have probably changed my mind on this player more than any other player I have ever, scouted in the 4 years I've watched and cover the draft in my free time, on my own time. But I mean, the thing with him this year, and we talked about it in previous videos, is like he's kind of got this Kirk Cousins thing where he really attacks the middle of the field well. He becomes very inaccurate when he throws the ball outside the hashes, but he's mobile, which is kind of a, it's a big, in my opinion, it's still an underrated trait for quarterbacks in the NFL. I think mobility is huge. But this year, he's still not as accurate outside the hashes, but he's found a way to be really good throwing the ball downfield, at least in between the hashes. And that is at least an emphasis in his game that has gotten better. To me, makes him an intriguing prospect going forward. I have him ranked 31 on my board right now because to be honest with you, like, this draft sucks. Like, I can't, I probably am going to have a mid-second round grade on this guy, and he might still end up in my top, 30, because it's just the way I'm looking at it right now. And I think he's a guy that's worth taking a flyer on when you look at the talent in this draft, and there's just not a lot of guys at other positions that I think are worth really taking a look at. But I think the next few weeks for him will be very important. They've got a couple of big games coming up. SMU is one to look at. And especially if they end up playing in the playoff against a good defense, how does he perform? He wasn't great against Georgia in that one Peach Bowl he played last year, but he's older now, got some more experience. And obviously the Senior Bowl we talked about is always important for quarterbacks. He's a guy who will be there likely. It's a weird one, Desmond Ridder, and the traits are fun. They're fun, and if it works in the NFL, it's going to pop. But it also could very much fall flat, and I'm not going to deny that.
So my guy that I'm talking about is number 56 on our big board, Trey McBride, Colorado State tight end. Folks, I'm like kind of all in. I have him at 41 on the big board. Max has him at 71. Nick has him at 83. The whole Trey McBride is actually tight end 3 for me. I'm still Charlie Kohler and Isaiah Likely. They're like within 2 spots of Trey McBride on the big board. But anyways, Trey McBride is like actually fast. He's a tight end. He's like 6'5", 6'4", 260 pounds. So he's a big boy, but he's like, he actually has some speed. I'm going to play some B-roll and you're going to see what I mean. The size speed combination is just absurd for this man. He gets double digit targets a game for a tight end. I mean, that's a madness. The numbers he puts up, if you're just scouting off numbers, like, this is the guy. He's like low-key a wide receiver. He gets yak. He breaks tackles. He just drags people around. He runs multiple routes. He's got like the route tree that you like. I'm all aboard the Trey McBride train, and I want you to be all aboard the Trey McBride train because like he is actually low-key a wide receiver, like I said.
I can't remember that game he played, but there's one game this season where he had all but one of the receiving yards, which I've never seen a receiver do that, or even a tight end.
He's got the team on his back, man.
Literally, I think he had like 150 yards, and they had 151 passing yards. It was like something ridiculous like that. So yeah, Trey McBride's had a really good year. One guy who barely cracked our top 100, number 99 overall, and I got him in the first round at 32 overall, and you guys cowards for not putting him in your top 100. It is a different Georgia defensive tackle. It is Devontae Wyatt, who has been fantastic this year. My number 2 defensive tackle in this draft, behind DeMarvin Leal, who will be a lot higher on this list. But Devontae Wyatt, first off, number 5 on Bruce Feldman's freak list. He's a freak athlete, and he's been a really, really good pass rusher this year, and also really good in the run defense. So I think Jordan Davis is getting a lot of the hype right now, even first-round hype from a lot of people. I think Devontae Wyatt has been the better player in that Georgia defense, which has probably been the best defense in the country, probably the best front 7 in the country. Devontae Wyatt deserves a lot more love than he's getting right now. And like I said, he's in my first round. But let's get to the top 50 of the boom or bust big board. At number 50, Kenneth Walker III, RB1 for Boomer Bust from Michigan State. Number 49, Martin Emerson, the corner from Mississippi State. Number 48, Kenny Pickett, quarterback, Pitt, QB6 for us right now. David Bell at 47, the wide receiver from Purdue, another receiver from Purdue that Nick will probably fall in love with. 46, Brandon Joseph, the Northwestern safety. 45, Boye Mafe, the Minnesota edge. 44, Lewis Seen, the Georgia safety. 43, Zach Harrison, Ohio State edge. 42, Carson Strong, the Nevada quarterback. And 41, Andrew Booth Jr., the Clemson corner. So, Tate, who do you like in this 50 to 41 range?
I mean, a lot of them, guys. Thank you, guys, for carrying Zach Harrison. I'm apparently the way low man on the Ohio State edge rushers. Sure. Homer Tate comments erased. But the guy I want to talk about, guys, it is Kenny football season. Kenny Pickett. PJ and I were on him last year. He didn't come out. It was the greatest tragedy. When him and Matt Corral did not declare for the draft, I was heartbroken. Let me tell you. I think I sent multiple tweets. I was inconsolable.
Imagine if they did declare how bad this draft would be.
There would be no redeeming value about this draft class if my guy Kenny football and then the greatest quarterback to ever breathe oxygen, Matt Corral, were not in this draft class. But anyways, my biggest gripe with Kenny Pickett last year was just the touchdown production. He had a career high of 13 passing touchdowns in a year in his 5 years. We'll get to that in a second. He has blown by that in his fourth game. He has 19 touchdowns, 1 interception. I love that ratio. His completion percentage is way up. His average yards of attempt is way up. He's having a career year. The throws he makes on tape, high quality NFL throws, fitting tight windows. He's got good zip on his throw. He also can scramble, high key. But yes, he's old. He's a redshirt senior. I think he's going to be 23 on draft day. The strength of schedule is not great. Thank you, Max. Shut up. But watch the tape and tell me you don't see an NFL quality quarterback. He has improved. The numbers are looking good. The tape is looking good. It is Kenny football season.
All right, so yeah, Max kind of hinted at it. I might be falling in love with another Purdue wide receiver. No one could ever, touch my heart the way Rondale Moore has, and the way he has this month, the season. He is legitimately, arguably, one of a top 10 player in this draft class right now. I mean, he's playing great. But, give me a chance to talk about Rondale in any video. David Bell, you might remember last year me just pulling my hair out about how much I hated the Purdue offense for not getting Rondale Moore the ball downfield like he has done pretty well so far with the Cardinals. And part of the reason that happened is because they basically only ran David Bell on the deep ball. And he's very good at it. He's a great deep threat receiver. He gets separation downfield with some speed. And he's a guy who also can use some physicality to do that. He's got good body control when he's catching passes. And I think I might be a little bit low on him because he just continues to produce once again on a team that they're not great. It's Purdue.
They're bad. They're bad. You can say it.
And he continues to be, one of their best players. And it's fascinating to me that with David Bell and Rondale Moore, they really weren't able to do anything these past couple of years. I mean, I guess they upset Ohio State one time, but that was the whole thing. I don't even know if David Bell was a part of that team. But he, just the production to me is huge, considering where he's been, who he's had throwing in the ball. The downfield ability is impressive. I think last year we really got on Downey Brown for his ability to get downfield and catch passes, even though he really wasn't the fastest guy. I think David Bell kind of has, some of that similar ability, except for he is a little bit faster, and I think it will translate better to the NFL route. He right now is mid-second for me. I could see him going up the board just if he continues to play this way. This is a guy that I think the consistency, there's not a lot of guys in this draft who, in my opinion, played well this year and also played well last year. There's a very short list, and he's one of them.
So the guy I'm going to talk about is Kenneth Walker III, KW3, who's RB1, like I said, on our big board. So he's not RB1 for me. I still have Breece Hall slightly above him. I have Kenneth Walker at 60 right now. But Kenneth Walker has exploded this year. At Michigan State, was a transfer from Wake Forest. And he has been a lot like Javonte Williams last year in that he's a tackle-breaking machine, which is going to translate at the NFL level. You look at Javonte Williams right now, one of the best tackle breakers in the NFL right now as a rookie. Kenneth Walker III is showing that same kind of ability. Now, the reason I have him a little bit below Breece Hall is just because I think Breece Hall is more capable as a receiver, whereas Kenneth Walker III has never really shown a capability to be a receiver. But still, man, he's an excellent runner. He's shown it this year. He's like one of the Heisman favorites this year for Michigan State. And he breaks tackles at the highest level, at the highest rate, basically, in the country. So Kenneth Walker III, definitely a name to keep an eye on for this running back class. Very well could be the first running back off the board in April. So let's go to 40 to 31. At number 40, Travis Jones, the D tackle from UConn. UConn got a player in the top 40 of the Boomer Bust Big Board. At 39, Jordan Davis, the Georgia defensive tackle. 38, Isaiah Likely, the Coastal Carolina tight end. 37, Kenyon Green, the Texas A&M offensive tackle. 36, Abraham Lucas, Washington State offensive tackle. 35, the guy who was number 1 overall on our preseason big board, Spencer Rattler, Oklahoma quarterback. 34, George Pickens, Georgia wide receiver. 33, Devin Lloyd, Utah linebacker. 32, Drake Jackson, the USC edge. And 31, Jahan Dotson, the Penn State receiver. So, Nick, who stands out in that 40 to 31 range?
So I'm going to talk about one of Max's guys, Jahan Dotson, and just a guy who is like slowly inched up on my radar. The more I've just watched Penn State this year, and they've luckily been enough big games that I've caught them. And, you know, he's an interesting one to me because he's kind of been talked about as a guy who can do a little bit of everything. But when I've heard analysts talk about him, it's like, oh, but he's not like the best athlete. Like his measurables aren't fantastic, you know. He's only 5'11", 184. He's going to run in the 4.4s. You know, he can't. You know, I don't know if he's that explosive. But then you see him make these like wild contested catches where he just like jumps out of the gym, and he has some after the catch ability. And it turns out there's some rumor that he actually runs in the 4.3s. And you know, so just again, this guy has produced in back-to-back years. My thing this year is going to be how few players have. I'm going to continue to say this: played well last year and play well this year. Here's a guy that's done it as well. So for me, he's going to be a first-round prospect, probably going into this draft. And I think, you know, as well as Penn State has been playing this year, hopefully Clifford gets back. I don't know what the deal is with that. Max probably knows better than I do right now. But that will help Dotson's stock as well. And he, you know, to me, has been a big part of their rise as a team. Again, it's the consistency. And just not a lot of guys are doing that. And he's been good for at least 1 year, you know.
All right, the guy I'm highlighting here is our tight end 1 officially. It is not a guy named Jalen Weidemeyer. It is not a guy named Charlie Kohler. Cowards, but I digress. Isaiah Likely, Coastal Carolina. Hello. Welcome to the big board. Tight end 1. If you want to think that Trey McBride is like a legitimate low-key wide receiver, Isaiah Likely is a like low-key, high-key legitimate wide receiver. And Nick, when we were talking about it earlier, said he's a perfect H-back. That is the nail on the head. 19 yards per catch. He's fast. He's got good hands. He's a good route runner. He's a tough runner. He is like, if you want a tight end who's going to run routes, get open, just get the ball in his hands, and he's going to make plays. Similar, I'm not calling him George Kittle, but similar to what George Kittle does in the NFL and guys like him, Isaiah Likely is that guy, pal. If you want him to block and be Jeremy Ruckert, who is an excellent run blocking tight end, Isaiah Likely is not that guy. You are not that guy, pal. But if you want him to strictly run routes and score touchdowns for you in the air, Isaiah Likely is that guy.
Was it like 230 yards this past week too? Like this guy
he had 8 catches, 232 yards in the air, 4 touchdowns. 8 catches, 4 touchdowns. And like a lot of them just obviously 232 yards. Obviously a lot of them were long scores. It was crazy. Watch the tape. In fact, I'll probably be rolling it right now. But yes, like Isaiah Likely.
95-yard touchdown too. Yeah, this guy's got juice. One guy who has not had any juice this year. Finally, we're going to talk about him. We have to talk about him. Spencer Rattler, the Oklahoma quarterback. This fall from grace, guys, has been I came up with it right before we started recording. I was like, oh my God, this is like the Matt Barkley fall, where Matt Barkley, if he declared for the 2012 draft, probably would have been the 3rd pick behind Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III. Decided to go back for his senior year at USC, was the number 1 consensus player on everyone's big board going into the 2013 draft. Had a really bad year and fell to like the 3rd or 4th round. I think a day 3 pick. I'm not saying Spencer Rattler is in that range. He's still a 2nd round pick for all of us right now. But here's the thing. he's not going to get a chance to prove himself because he's not going to play probably for the rest of the year because Caleb Williams came in that Red River Showdown game and lit Texas up. And the second that he ran that touchdown in on 4th and 1, you saw the sideline respond to him, responded to Caleb Williams. After the game was over, Spencer Rattler left while the whole team was celebrating. Not only is Spencer Rattler not having that great of a year, but the team and the fans, and I don't think anyone is behind Spencer Rattler right now. And you even Lincoln Riley, man, the play calling for Spencer Rattler, compare that to the play calling for Caleb Williams. He was letting Williams just sling it. Rattler really hasn't been allowed to do that, so maybe that says a lot. I would be shocked if Lincoln Riley goes back to Spencer Rattler after what Caleb Williams has shown. This guy probably won't even be in the 2022 draft after being our number 1 overall prospect heading into the season. This guy might have to transfer, and this is a massive fall for Spencer Rattler. And still, we're going off of last year a lot, so he's still in that second round range. But I'd be shocked if he even is in this draft at all. So let's go to 30 to 21. And at number 30, Myjai Sanders, the Cincinnati edge. 29, Roger McCreary, the Auburn corner. 28, Jordan Battle, Alabama safety. 27, Kentucky offensive tackle Darian Kennard. 26, Mississippi State offensive tackle Charles Cross. 25, Adam Anderson, the Georgia edge. 24, Jaquan Brisker, Penn State safety. 23, Nicholas Petit-Frere, the Ohio State offensive tackle. 22, George Karlaftis, the Purdue edge. And 21, Nakobe Dean, the Georgia linebacker. So let's start with you, Tate, on this one. Who do you like in this 30 to 21 range?
I'm going to talk about the guy you just mentioned, Nakobe Dean, who I teased in the Week 5 college football, Week 6 NFL React video, that he was probably, I think, locked in as linebacker 1 for me for the rest of the year. And then you guys stole it, and now I'm the low man on Nakobe Dean. Cool.
That's how we work as a group.
The low man, I'm 27 on him, but still, I'm the low man. Good run defender, has turned on the coverage skills this year, something that maybe was a bit lacking in previous years. Got his first interception this past week against Auburn. Nice little tip play, good focus, yada, yada, eye-hand coordination. He's silencing just a lot of the questions that I think were surrounding him coming into the year in terms of, can he be a good coverage linebacker? Is he a good enough run defender? Is he a good enough athlete? This dude's play speed is like maxed out, just cranked up to 1,000,000. When you watch him, he is all over the place, and he is coming downhill hard. As a blitzer this year, that is like especially apparent when he is just attacking the quarterback. He's just going to take their head off. And he's recorded a couple sacks this year, all over the place in terms of tackles, run defender. And then the coverage skills obviously are improved this year. So there's a lot to like about Nakobe Dean. And like I said, I'm fairly confident, today's date is October 13, that he is linebacker 1 for me for the rest of the year, barring injury.
I'd say he might keep rising up the board too. Rare instance of a player this year putting it all together. Just rare instance. Let me talk about Darian Kennard, because he's a guy who I think has floated around a lot of draft boards in like that 30s, low 40s range. And I'm not really getting it. It feels like he goes to Kentucky. Like, we can't have him that high type thing, because this guy is, kind of almost exactly what you would look for from a big tackle. He's not maybe an elite athlete. There were some things he needed to work on, I think, in pass pro this year to make it so he could slide out. From that, he plays right tackle, slide out and, defend against faster pass rushers this year. And I think he's done better with his pass pro technique. And he's massive. He's 6'5", 345. And you just don't get that going in the NFL. And I just think, again, in the draft class, there's just not a lot of guarantees. The guy who has improved in the one thing where he needed to at least, show some improvement, pass pro, did that. He's playing at Kentucky. The team is doing well. His size is impressive. He looks like he's always been a good run blocker. His hair and beard are rugby worthy. Hairstyle amazing. To me, this is just I can't say that this guy is like the average top 20 tackle pick that I'd look for in a draft class, but I feel like it's a safe pick because he's at least produced for 2 years. The size, the measurables are there, and he's produced at a spot where it's not like he's got the greatest, support around him. I'm trying not to overthink players this year because it's just, there's a lot of like
Yeah.
There's a lot of, it's a lot of noise. The Rattler thing is crazy. It's crazy, and just to see some players like Nakobe Dean, like Darian Kinnard, at least have a better senior year than their junior year than their sophomore year, senior year than their junior year, is something that for me will again move you up the board.
Yeah, one guy is moving up my board, George Karlaftis, who we weren't very high on, I believe, in Big Board 1.0. Wanted to see him improve, and I think he's done that. So the thing with him, again, I'm going to keep mentioning the freaks list, number 7 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. He is a strong edge defender. He's 275 pounds, and he plays with great, great power. Now, it was inconsistent at times last year. I think a lot of it had to do with him never coming off the field for Purdue, really. This year, you're seeing him play consistently from first quarter to the end of the fourth quarter, and he's really dominating. I have him number 17 overall, still edge 5 for me at 17 overall. This edge class is stupid good. Now, we talk about a lot of positions where it's not looking too hot right now. The edge class is ridiculously good. George Karlaftis is having a really, really good year this year. He's improved, and that's really what I wanted to see from him, so I have him now in my top 20. Speaking of the top 20, let's go to the Boomer Bust top 20, and that is Treylon Burks at number 20, the Arkansas receiver. Trent McDuffie, Washington corner at 19. 18, Drake London, USC receiver, who has maybe been the best receiver in the country this year. 17, Ikam Ekwonu, the NC State offensive tackle. 16, Ahmad Sauce Gardner, the Cincinnati corner. 15, Sam Howell, dropping from 2 to 15. Not as big of a drop as Spencer Rattler, but still a significant drop for Sam Howell, the North Carolina quarterback. 14, Kingsley Enagbare, the South Carolina edge in the top 15. Chris Olave at 13, the Ohio State receiver. Another Ohio State receiver, Garrett Wilson at 12. And, of course, DeMarvin Leal at number 11, the Texas A&M edge, D-tackle, whatever you want to call him, defensive lineman from Texas A&M. So, Nick, who stands out in that 20 to 11 range for you?
All right, Sam Howell discourse time. Week 1, Spencer Rattler plays an interesting but fine game against Tulane, and they escape in a very close, shouldn't have been a close game against Tulane. And Sam Howell looks like crap against Virginia Tech, and we're all panicking about him and like, oh, he might not be a first-round pick if he plays like this. And he kind of regathers himself. Spencer Rattler gradually just doesn't play that well every game, and he's completely fallen out. And Rattler's kind of stayed in the first-round discussion, or Howell's kind of stayed in the first-round discussion because he's played well. And I think the context clues here are, yeah, the ACC sucks, but also he's lost 2 running backs, 2 receivers, some offensive linemen over the years. The offense is not as good as it used to be, and he has managed to do some things like run the ball to kind of make up for it. This is definitely his worst year at North Carolina, but it's gonna end up being like a fine year, and I think all it has really done is solidified the Baker Mayfield comp, because he has just kind of reflected what has been around him. So, we have him at 15. Mac Jones went 15 last year. I think personally that's like a very good comparison. Yeah, just in terms of what I think he is as a player going into the NFL. And I wouldn't be panicking about him. I wouldn't be scared to select him. I'd be scared about a Ritter. I'd be scared about a Rattler right now. I think Howell's going to be fine. I don't know if the top end ability that we were looking for from him is going to exist at the NFL level. But if you're a team like, I don't want to say Washington because I just don't trust them, but if you're a team like Minnesota who's moving off Kirk Cousins and you have some players there that you have confidence in and you just want to fit him right in, I guarantee you he's going to succeed in that play action offense and help them win games immediately.
I mean, it is Kellen Mond season in Minnesota. Let's not forget.
That's true.
Guy I want to talk about, I talk about all these guys. Drake London is currently on pace to beat Devontae Smith's stats from last year, but I digress. We won't talk about that right now. The people don't want to hear that. Trent McDuffie, Washington corner, is like a lockdown corner, but he's playing a lot of zone. I think that's going to be his ceiling limiter, I guess, if where we're going to go for. That's going to hold him back is the fact he's just playing an overwhelming majority amount of zone defense. But he was solid in 2019, 2020, obviously with the Pac-12, was a basically a wash, just tiny sample size. But he's playing very, very well this year. Is not really getting thrown out a ton. When he is, he's not really allowing receptions. He's an excellent athlete. There's just a lot to like. He's got good size. He's got a lot of the check marks that you want to look for, like athletic ability, size, the intangibles, yada yada. People love to toss this around. But at the end of the day, he is a very, very good zone corner. And in the NFL, they're playing a lot of zone defense. So I'm sure that some team is going to fall in love with him and take him in like the middle of the first round. And that's about where he's checking in right now. So I think that is an appropriate ranking by us. So nice job, guys. Pat yourself on the back.
So I'm going to go with a guy who I love, man. Ikem Ekwonu, who's just missed the top 10 at number 11 on my board. First off, this guy is the best run blocker in the country, full stop. Like, I don't think there's any argument. Like, Ikem Ekwonu actually wants to kill a guy every single time he goes on the field. There are a few blocks where it's just like the Michael Oher blindside blocks where it's like, I'm going to throw you into the sideline, and then I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to throw you into the bench and make you sit on the bench where you belong. That's Ikem Ekwonu. He wants to do that every single play. I love that from an offensive tackle. Where you see other offensive tackles, like they'll get the job done in the run game, they'll open up the hole, and then they'll let go. I'm like, all right, play's over, and let me conserve my energy. Ikem Ekwonu, maybe he can get a few penalties in the next level because of late hits, but dude, he literally wants to like hurt people out there. And I don't want to see he's a dirty player because he's not a dirty player, but he is like pancake block after pancake block. He's a very mean player. Now, the reason he was lower on our board, because he did show this last year too, but it was he played a lot of guard at NC State, and he was really not good as a pass protector at guard. Played a little tackle too, was okay at pass protector at tackle, but we'll see in the pass pro. This year, he's actually been really good as a pass blocker. And look, I know Evan Neal is basically a lock to be the first tackle off the board, but I do think Ikem Ekwonu has like an argument, a conversation with Ikem Ekwonu, with Evan Neal, because Evan Neal, look, he's a great athlete. Ikem Ekwonu also, though, 58 on Bruce Feldman's freak list. Like, this guy's a really good athlete. He's probably been the best tackle in the country this year, and I think he deserves a lot more love, and I don't think enough people are talking about him at the top of this tackle class, and I think Evan Neal has kind of just been the slam dunk guy. Don't know if it really is. I think Ikem Ekwonu deserves a lot more love than he's getting. All right, top 10 time of the Boomer Bust Big Board. Number 10, Malik Willis, QB2 for us. QB from Liberty, the quarterback from Liberty. 9, Tyler Linderbaum, the Iowa interior offensive lineman. You want to talk about a guy who's been dominant his entire career? Tyler Linderbaum, still the best center in the country this year. 8, another guy who's been dominant his whole career, Nick Bonito, Oklahoma edge defender. 7, Kyer Elam, Florida corner, and then we'll round out the top 6, and then we'll finish out the top 5. But 6, Matt Corral, Ole Miss quarterback at QB1.
Yeah.
So, Tate, I'll let you just start, man. I'll let you start with your guy.
So for those who don't know, I edit our videos. If there's ever an issue, blame Nick. And every week our videos, we mention Matt Corral, and I put together, I don't know, 3.5, 4 minutes of Matt Corral highlights, just because it makes me feel nice, but also because I want to talk about Matt Corral for like 3.5, 4 minutes. So that's what we're going to try to do today. Matt Corral is QB1. Malik Willis obviously is an unreal talent, but some of the things he does with his opponent level, I don't think he's going to be able to get away with in the NFL, yada, yada. But Matt Corral can run. He can throw. He's dominating in the SEC. He has an absolute howitzer of an arm. I could watch this dude throw 60-yard passes that he throws effortlessly. He throws them like every single week. We haven't seen the quote-unquote Matt Corral game that Max is just waiting for. I know he's over in the corner, the dark corner. There's cobwebs. He's just rubbing his hands, waiting for Matt Corral to throw, 2 interceptions in a game. I don't think that's happened yet. Has he thrown more than one? Has he thrown 2 in one game?
He's even thrown interceptions.
Oh, wait, he hasn't thrown an interception. That's right, folks. Matt Corral has not thrown an interception this year. So shut up, Max. Get in the bin. Did I mention he has an absolute cannon? This guy can unload his arm, making NFL throws all over the place. Is he throwing into like the tightest of windows? Sometimes he is, yes. He had that dime against Alabama that was it Dontario Drummond, who you guys didn't rank, thanks, dropped against Alabama. Maybe that was also like 70 yards downfield. Did I mention he has a huge arm? Matt Corral is the best quarterback in the country. He's QB1. I called this last fall. I stuck to my guns, and here we are. Matt Corral's QB1 on our top 100 big board. And I hope you enjoyed however long of Matt Corral B-roll that I just played.
Hi, I'm on the Corral train too. I was here.
He is as well. Max is not.
Here.
Max is not on our train. He's in an Uber somewhere. He's not. He's not on our train.
The bad Corral game is the game against Alabama that we already talked about, where he wasn't really bad, and also he's playing Alabama. So like,
dude had no time. He was throwing checkdowns. He was throwing screens. Had that big play that got dropped. Like I said,
there's a noticeable advanced difference in the processing of route combinations and coverages between Matt Corral and Malik Willis right now. Like, Malik Willis is a project going in the NFL a little bit. Matt Corral is the only guy I'm convinced right now that can take over for a bad team day one, and if he pops day one, can make them win games.
He also has 8 rushing touchdowns this year. Some quarterbacks that
run game
we'll be talking about have like 8 passing touchdowns at this point. Matt Corral has 8 rushing touchdowns already. All right, I'm off the soapbox.
He's good at football, And look, can we just say that this man, and Max has said, because they're probably not going to win enough games, I'm still convinced that Ole Miss is probably going to win 10 games, that he should win the Heisman. Like, he's the best player in the country. He just is. Like, this team is not great. Like, they got one receiver. They got Jerrion Ely, who's a running back, whatever. It's Matt Corral. It's all him.
I think Matt Corral's tied with Bryce Young in Heisman odds right now, plus 210.
Folks, bet it while you can. That's the advice.
Yeah. I don't hate that. I do think Alabama's going to be just fine, so we'll see. All right. The guy I'm going to talk about is my QB1 in this class, not for Nick and Tate, but my QB1, Malik Willis, the Liberty quarterback. Shout out Donnie, who had this preseason. He said Malik Willis QB1.
Great call.
Really good call. Because I think everyone and their mother said, okay, Spencer Rattler, Sam Howell. And it's either Matt Corral or Malik Willis right now. Like, I think if you say anyone else, it's kind of like, I don't know, man. But I think Malik Willis is, for my money, he's been the most impressive quarterback this year. I think Matt Corral is right there with him, and I do have Matt Corral higher on my big board. Thank you, guys. I will be bumping him up even more probably. But Malik Willis, I just think he's got the highest ceiling. And for so many quarterbacks that we've seen in the NFL, I've just been burned continuously by doing this. Just by like, man, Justin Herbert, not very good at Oregon, late first-round pick. Look at him now. He's like an MVP candidate. Patrick Mahomes, didn't like him much coming out of Texas Tech. Look at him now. He's Patrick freaking Mahomes. So many quarterbacks where I'm just like, I don't know. Like, they're projects, but we'll see. In this class, when there's not a Trevor Lawrence, where like that's a slam dunk, even though he doesn't really look like one right now. But when there's not a slam dunk quarterback, just take the guy with the highest ceiling. And I have Malik Willis with that highest ceiling right now. Yeah, the competition is not great, but he did look good against Syracuse, which I think does have a decent defense. He is going up against Matt Corral and Ole Miss on my birthday. So for our birthday present, guys, I think we should all just take a trip to that game because that is going to be fantastic. Maybe the QB1 game for us. Whoever wins, we just all declare that guy as QB1. But that'll be a great game. But look, Malik Willis has made ridiculous plays look easy this year. He's the best runner in the draft. For my money, still has the strongest arm in the draft, a lot like Trey Lance. And I just think that ceiling is just too hard to ignore, and I have him QB1 and top 5 on my board. So let's go to this top 5. Now, 4 of the 5 players in this top 5 we did a video on. So if you want to see our thoughts on them, just check out those videos. The one guy, though, that we didn't do a video on, Aiden Hutchinson, checking in at number 5, the Michigan edge defender. 4, Evan Neal, Alabama offensive tackle. 3, Kayvon Thibodeau, Oregon edge. 2, Derek Stingley Jr., the LSU corner. And number 1, PJ's guy before the season, number 1 overall, Kyle Hamilton. Number 1 on all 3 of our big boards. The Notre Dame safety at number 1 overall. So I think what we should do, guys, here is just let's talk about Aiden Hutchinson. And Nick, you can start us off here. He has been unbelievable this year, man.
Yeah, so the athleticism, I think I underrated coming the year. It's popped, the acceleration, the speed, the power, the strength. It's ridiculous. He's done a little bit of everything. He's shown his ability to kind of rush as that, natural 4-3 edge rusher, which there's been less of, I think, coming out of college. Michigan kind of plays that old-fashioned style of defense, and he's just been disruptive as anyone has been in college football this year. From all levels of the game, third and short, first and 10 pass rushing, third and long pass rushing. He's beaten tackle. He sent Jackson Kirkland into the shadow realm of this draft. We haven't even talked about him. And people talk about how do you perform against NFL talent in college. Well, he just absolutely ended a guy's first round hopes. So, again, who played better this year after a good season last year? This guy came off an injury, and he's arguably been the best defensive player, I think, in college football this season.
Yeah, dude's an absolute monster. Played really, really well against Tristan Wirfs, like way back when. Is that 2019?
Yeah.
A bit of a throwback there. But yes, played very, very well against Tristan Wirfs, one of the few people to do that in that season. Was looking really good last year. I think before he broke his leg ankle thing, I think I had him at 40 on the big board, fringe first round. The edge class last year was a total mess, and I was struggling to make sense of it. But he is just a different beast, but the same animal this year. Shout out Kobe. The numbers he's putting up, he dominated Jackson Kirkland, who I was on the record, I think last big board video, was saying he's bad. But still, that's an NFL quality tackle that he just bullied, similar to what Kayvon Thibodeau did to Elijah Vera Tucker last year in terms of just pure domination. He's just strong. He's fast. He's just relentless. Aiden Hutchinson's an absolute dog.
So just to kind of show how dominant Aiden Hutchinson was in that game against Washington, because I think that is the game. If you want to see what Aiden Hutchinson's like, turn on the Washington game. Jackson Kirkland was a top 25 player on our big board preseason. Week 2 after that, and now we're 6 games in, Jackson Kirkland, 63rd overall on our big board. Fringe.
He's bad.
Second round prospect. I don't think he's bad. I do think his strength is a major question mark. But you guys mentioned it. I mean, he's number 2 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, which only behind Evan Neal. And for my money, probably been the best player in the country this year. Just been the best player in the country this year. Jackson Kirkland had no chance against him. They even chipped him with a tight end. They still didn't have a chance against him. He had a few plays that were just holy cow. I was watching that tape, and a thing I like to do when I'm watching prospects, especially when a sick play happens, that play right there, that's going to be playing on every draft channel or wherever the channel is for the draft. That's going to be playing during his highlight reel when he gets picked. And he had 4 or 5 against Washington, against Jackson Kirkland. He was unbelievable in that game. Not only that game, unbelievable every single game this season. I thought Kwity Paye was the main Michigan edge guy that we had to watch out for. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, has lapped him and then some. And for me, Hutchinson, hot take, number 1 edge in this class, above Kayvon Thibodeau.
Spice.
Who is right behind him. But I have Aiden Hutchinson number 3 and Kayvon Thibodeau number 4. So there it is, our top 100 big board halfway through the college football season. We're going to, of course, have another big board at the end of the college football season. Going to continuously update after the combine and the pro days and everything. But here we are right now, just kind of giving you a glimpse into what we're thinking 50% of the way through the 2021 college football season. So please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Boom or Bust Draft. I'm posting a lot on there for the 2022 NFL Draft. Please subscribe below, and please check out the merch store and get yourself some Boom or Bust merch, because we're going to be going crazy this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So for Tate Sigworth and Nick Merriam, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.